Jotaro could only stare in shock as Kakyoin attacked his grandfather. Only the old man's yell of pain brought him back to reality. Kakyoin's eyes had a crazed, feral look to them, like a dog has when it sees its next meal. But this was far more unsettling, as if the dog hadn't had anything to eat in months.
Jotaro, Jesus!
Joseph's arm became pale as Kakyoin drained the blood from it. The old man would pass out or die if Jotaro didn't act. His heartbeat quickened and finally pushed him to move. Star Platinum punched Kakyoin in the jaw at full force, sending him flying back into the fallen crate stack.
Old man, get to the ambulance! I'll hold him off.
Jotaro, you can't!
Just do it!
The old man had his hand wrapped around his bleeding arm, but he nodded and ran to the warehouse door. He shouted to the soldiers as he went.
Open fire! Help protect my grandson!
The soldiers scrambled to get him into position to fire at Kakyoin. Jotaro rushed to the crate stack, trying to see if his friend was alright.
Kakyoin, are you okay?
Kakyoin was slowly getting up. His arms had stopped disintegrating and were slowly reforming. But the feral look in his eye was still there. He bared his teeth at Jotaro like an animal. Jotaro hadn't gotten a good look at them before, but he could now see his canines were sharpened like a wolf's, ready to tear into him. His mouth and lips were stained with blood from his grandfather. He made a guttural, snarling sound which unsettled Jotaro to his core. Kakyoin started to slowly advance on him, picking his way over the fallen crates.
Kakyoin.
Jotaro began to back away, trying to talk his friend down.
What's gotten into you? Talk to me.
Kakyoin said nothing in response. He only continued to creep closer, his open mouth dripping red.
Kakyoin, stay back!
Jotaro's eye was drawn to a ripple of movement at Kakyoin's feet. His stand, Hierophant. Its coils were slithering on the ground towards Jotaro.
Kakyoin! Fire!
An explosion of gunshots ricocheted around the warehouse. Jotaro immediately dove down by the wall for cover and could hear Kakyoin behind him in hot pursuit. His bat arm slammed against his side, making him grit his teeth with pain. He looked up to see Kakyoin's body had become riddled with bullet wounds, blood spraying in the air. He hardly hesitated, though. He faltered and then dove towards Jotaro. Star Platinum swung his fist again. It landed, but this time Kakyoin didn't go flying like before. He held up his arms and slid backward, and then regained his composure. He looked at Jotaro again, his eyes hungry. Jotaro was more upset by something else, though.
Star Platinum should have sent him flying. So why didn't he? I'm sure I hit him hard enough.
Kakyoin charged him again, his fangs bared. Jotaro got back up to his feet. Star Platinum swung again. This time Jotaro made sure to pay close attention to when his fists connected. A shiny green and white fist fired back to match his own, and then slid out of view. Star Platinum's hit was slowed and only delivered a lesser impact.
Is that Hierophant Green?
Kakyoin was knocked back by the blow, but his stand was coiling around him, its humanoid form assembling, preparing to aid its master.
That's impossible. Hierophant isn't nearly strong or fast enough to slow a hit from Star Platinum. How is he countering me so easily now?
Hierophant's tentacles shot out of Kakyoin's wrists, ready to ensnare Jotaro. Star Platinum's battle cry sounded as he unleashed a volley of blows on the coils that drew near. Jotaro had to keep his concentration sharp to keep back each coil. They were quick and slippery like serpents. He had to come up with a plan. He couldn't fend Kakyoin off forever, not without seriously hurting him.
He needs blood to heal himself. That's why he's gone crazy. If we can get to him, that should be enough to make him come back to his senses. His
gaze slipped to Kakyoin's bullet wounds. They, like his arms, were healing slowly, the half-melted bullets protruding from his skin. A coil made it past his elbow while he was distracted. Jotaro went to catch it, but the coil flicked back and wrapped itself around his stand's wrist. Hierophant began to wrap tighter, crushing his wrist. Jotaro gasped in pain as the damage was transferred to his real body. It was on his bad left arm's wrist. The coil began snaking its way up his arm, the iron grip coming along with it.
This plan is to crush my whole body! Hierophant is so much stronger. Could that be because he's a vampire now?
Jotaro yelled in pain as the coil squeezed his injured upper arm. He had to act fast. Jotaro grabbed Hierophant's coil with his right hand and squeezed it even harder than it was gripping his arm. He heard Kakyoin grunt in pain as the damage was transferred to his physical body. More coils appeared to ensnare his right hand. Jotaro let go of the coil he currently held and punched the others away.
Now, maybe I can slip out of his grip while he's distracted.
Star Platinum yanked his arm free. Before Jotaro could react, Kakyoin had made another inhuman roaring noise and lunged at Jotaro while he was distracted. Jotaro hardly had time to register what was happening. He blindly swung Star Platinum's fist and he felt it connect with Kakyoin's shoulder. A sharp pain flared up in his own shoulder. His body seized up, his breath becoming short. Daggers of pain shot through his upper body. The top of Kakyoin's head was centimeters away from his chin. He slowly looked at his friend. Kakyoin had buried his fangs in Jotaro's left shoulder muscles. Kakyoin's arm that he had punched was dislocated, popped out of its socket. But Kakyoin hardly seemed to care. Jotaro could hear the sound of him ecstatically slurping, trying to absorb as much blood as he could. He had wrapped what was left of his good arm around Jotaro's waist.
No, Kakyoin!
Jotaro managed to mutter. Kakyoin slowed for a moment, as if he realized what he was doing. Then he went back to it like a dog to its vomit.
Kakyoin, if you don't stop, I'll have to...
He didn't know how to finish that sentence. It was like when Polnareff had been possessed by Anubis. He knew that killing his friend would save his own life, but it would come at a great cost. A cost he could never willingly pay. He grabbed onto Kakyoin's head with Star Platinum's hands. He tried to pull Kakyoin off of him, but his friend held on with the same inhuman strength that he had used to crush his arm. Jotaro kept pulling, beginning to sweat from the effort. Jotaro managed to move him a little, but then faltered in pain as his flesh began tearing. Hierophant's coils appeared again, wrapping around Star Platinum's wrist in the blink of an eye. Jotaro fought to keep his hands on Kakyoin. If the coils drew his arms away, he'd have almost no chance of fending off his friend.
Kakyoin!
He was starting to get woozy from the blood loss. He probably had another minute before he blacked out. He would have to kill him.
No, there's another way.
He remembered the last trick up his sleeve. Stopping time. He groaned again, this time not from pain.
Good grief.
He had to. There was no other way. The ability he never wanted to use again. He had Star Platinum emerge at full strength this time.
Star Platinum! The world!
He was cut off by the sound of a blaring horn, like that of a fire truck. He paused, unsure of what he'd heard. Kakyoin released Hierophant's coils, but still held on to Jotaro, as if he was preparing to flee at the last moment. The horn blared again, yellow lights flooding over Jotaro through the shutters of the warehouse window. He thought it was sunlight at first, but it became harsher and brighter every second, like the source was coming closer. There was an explosion of stone and debris next to Jotaro. Kakyoin had let go of him in a panic, and Jotaro took the opportunity to punch him in the chest as hard as he could. Kakyoin went sprawling to the floor about a meter away. Jotaro didn't see what happened to him as he was jerked out of sight. He only ran blindly, clinging to his wounded shoulder. Once he was sure he had reached a safe distance, he crouched and waited for the noise and debris to clear. He turned to see what had saved him. An ambulance emblazoned with the Speedwagon Foundation logo was parked on the warehouse floor. There was a gaping hole in the warehouse wall where it had charged through, bricks and wire still crumbling to the ground. Dust filled the air, soldiers coughing and trying to get down on the floor to help Jotaro. Jotaro looked up to see the driver. It was the old man, leaning out of the window and grinning at Jotaro like an idiot.
Jotaro! Looks like I got here in the nick of time.
Jotaro only stared in shock. Then he remembered.
Where is Kakyoin?
Don't worry.
The old man tapped his hands on the steering wheel.
He won't be going anywhere.
Jotaro suddenly saw a squirming form beneath the ambulance. It was Kakyoin. The ambulance's front tire was pinned on top of his chest. Jotaro winced at the sight. Any normal human would have been crushed and killed under such a weight. Even with the superhuman strength, it couldn't feel good. Kakyoin smacked his wrist stumps against the tire, managing to push it a bit, but it seemed his arms only became more damaged. He made more horrible animal-like sounds. Joseph hopped out of the ambulance and ran around to the back of the vehicle. Jotaro turned his attention to him and ran to catch up, yelling after his grandfather.
Old man, are you insane?
What? I saved your life. I saw your little hugging session as I crashed in. If I'd waited any longer, you'd have died.
I had it under control. You could have killed me.
Quit your whining. Help me find it.
He flung the back doors of the ambulance open, then jumped inside. He began rooting around, ripping open drawers and other containers.
What the hell are you looking for, old man?
Blood.
The old man practically ripped a cabinet cover off and looked around in it for only a few seconds before deciding to check somewhere else.
What?
Ambulances always carry emergency donor blood. We can feed it to Kakyoin to help heal him.
Jotaro nodded. He jumped into the ambulance as well and began searching.
Jotaro!
Kakyoin's voice carried over to them. Jotaro kept his head down and continued looking for the emergency donor blood.
Jotaro!
Jotaro's blood ran cold. Kakyoin must have regained some of his senses, having taken some blood from him and the old man.
Stay down, Kakyoin! Help is on the way!
Mr. Joestar!
Kakyoin screamed like he was about to die.
I can't move! Help me!
Jotaro found a cart hidden in the front, near the driver's seat. He tore through the cart shelves before finding what he was looking for, a black medical kit. The sight of it made him pause for a moment. A medical kit like this had been what had started all of this.
If only I'd never seen it.
He felt his stomach twist. He shouldn't think like that. Kakyoin being alive was certainly better than him being dead, right? They could cure him, and then everything would go back to normal, right?
I'm immortal now, Jotaro.
Kakyoin's words rang in his ears. His heart began to pound. He had to believe there was a way for Kakyoin. Just because this had failed didn't mean there wasn't any hope. He opened the kit. There was a styrofoam box. He pulled it on top of the cart and opened it. Inside were several pint-sized pouches of blood.
You found it!
His grandfather grabbed the styrofoam box and ran back out of the ambulance. Kakyoin was a mess. He was still writhing under the tire. He'd managed to move it off a bit more, and now his pelvis was being crushed under it. His hair was a matted, tangled mess, dried with old blood. His body was still riddled with bullets, and the stumps of his wrists were getting more damaged by him banging them on the tire and ambulance underside. Flecks of foam dotted the corners of his mouth. When he saw Jotaro and Joseph coming, he gasped loudly and started to wail again.
Help me! Help! Help! It hurts! It burns! I wanna...
He was interrupted as he coughed up his own blood. He coughed some more, and then dissolved in a puddle of red and tears.
Jotaro! Jotaro! Mr. Joestar! Help! Pull the rev!
He was crying.
Has he completely lost it?
Jotaro wondered. Kakyoin turned his head and locked eyes with Jotaro. They were still full of that crazed, animalistic ferocity, but there was something softer underneath that. Something so tender Jotaro couldn't place what it was.
Mom. Dad. When can I see them?
Kakyoin whispered to him.
When can I see my mom and dad?
Joseph inhaled sharply next to Jotaro.
Jotaro, let's hurry and give him the blood.
Right.
Jotaro grabbed a pouch from the styrofoam container. He ripped off the seal and knelt down next to Kakyoin. Upon smelling blood, Kakyoin started thrashing violently, baring his fangs and smacking the ground with his head.
Stop it! Stop and start drinking!
He tried to dribble some blood into Kakyoin's mouth, but his friend was fighting so hard he couldn't get any in. The tire shifted again.
Kakyoin, stop it!
Star Platinum slammed his hand against Kakyoin's throat, nearly choking him and pinning him to the ground. Kakyoin gasped for air and hit Star Platinum's own with his coils, but Jotaro held him firmly. His shoulder wound flared up sharply. He gasped from pain, but tried to work through it and get the blood into Kakyoin's mouth. The red stream entered in, and Kakyoin finally started to calm down. He drained the whole pouch quickly.
Give me some more, old man.
Joseph handed Jotaro another pouch. Kakyoin drank that one down as well. Joseph handed him another. They repeated the process until Kakyoin had drunk every single pouch. Kakyoin's arms regenerated as he fed. By the time they were done, they had reformed completely, and he was flexing his new fingers. His bullet wounds had healed as well, the bullets being pushed out as the reformed flesh generated around them. They rang loudly as they hit the cement floor. Kakyoin let out a ragged breath, like a man waking from a nightmare.
He should be fine now.
Joseph said, his voice weary. Jotaro sighed as well. Kakyoin had closed his eyes like he was asleep, but he was breathing heavily and muttering to himself.
Jotaro.
Save it, old man. I'm not going to give up.
Jotaro, I know you want to save him. I want to as well. But look what's happened.
I don't care.
He gasped as more pain flooded from his shoulder. He grabbed it, trying to staunch the blood flow.
Jotaro, your shoulder!
Joseph came over to examine Jotaro's wound.
It's nothing.
It is not!
Joseph gingerly peeled his grandson's jacket away, showing the full ugliness of the bite mark. Jotaro didn't look.
Jotaro, it's a good thing vampire bites don't work like they do in the movies.
Shove it, old man. You should see your arm. It's not much better.
Joseph examined his right arm. His own wound was certainly ugly, 4 nearly identical puncture wounds that were swollen and bleeding.
Mr. Joestar!
The Speedwagon Foundation workers came over.
Are you alright? Can we assist you?
Yes, we've both suffered injuries. Get the medics to treat me and Jotaro.
Of course.
After a few moments, some medical workers in white clothes came up to Jotaro and started treating his shoulder. They were asking him all kinds of questions, but Jotaro ignored them and kept his eyes trained on Kakuin. He was still laying there with his eyes closed, moving rapidly back and forth under his lids like he was deep in sleep. His lips were moving quietly like he was saying some kind of prayer, his body twitching and jerking. He finally understood what he had seen before, when Kakuin had looked at him with those eyes, when he had noticed something softer underneath. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness, pity, or hatred. It was the look of something truly tortured. The resignation of a damned soul.
Jotaro.
Kakuin had whispered his name.
Why? Why are you still clinging to me?
Jotaro was one of Kakuin's only lingering threads of his old life. No wonder he had wanted to find him so bad.
Kakuin, I'm not your hero, or any kind of savior for you. I just made everything worse. I want to help you, but...
The medic had put something on the wound that made it sting. Jotaro grit his teeth as it was disinfected.
Jotaro! Get that ambulance off of him! He won't like that when he wakes up!
Right.
Jotaro had Star Platinum lift the ambulance and move it back slightly. Kakuin didn't react, only continuing to twitch and mutter to himself.
How pathetic. You are immortal, everlasting, and you couldn't even kill one.
No!
Kakuin's eyes flew open. He sat up in a panic, his heart beating wildly. Cold sweat trickled down his face.
Kakuin, calm down. You're okay.
Someone put a hand on his shoulder. He looked up to see Mr. Joestar's earnest gaze. Kakuin turned away, putting a hand on his face. His eyes teared up and he fought to keep himself from crying. He took heavy breaths, gasping in between his words.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
He wasn't sure what he was apologizing for, his hysteria or anything unspeakable he may have done during his frenzy.
It's okay. You're safe now. You're...
Mr. Joestar. I saw him.
Who?
Mr. Joestar leaned in closer. Kakuin hardly dared to utter the name, but he mumbled it under his breath quickly.
Dio. I saw him. I was angry I hadn't killed you.
Mr. Joestar's eyes widened, but then he shook his head.
Kakuin, Dio is dead. It was just a dream.
No. He was real. He's been talking to me ever since I woke up.
Mr. Joestar furrowed his brow.
What do you mean?
I can hear his voice. He's everywhere. It must be because I have his blood now.
Kakuin!
He trailed off, unsure how to respond.
It's all in your head. Dio is gone. He couldn't possibly be speaking to you.
Kakuin looked at the floor. He didn't say anything for a while, only thinking. Wild, racing thoughts he could hardly hold on to. His heart was pounding so hard he felt it would burst. Then he sighed. Of course Mr. Joestar didn't understand. No one ever would. He once again felt the familiar ache of loneliness that immortality brought.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
He looked around, trying to see more of his surroundings, aghast at what he saw. The ambulance had crashed through the wall. Jotaro, Mr. Joestar looking beat up and bearing thick bandages, and every soldier in the building had their gun trained on him. Kakuin began to panic more.
What happened?
No one said anything. Jotaro and Joseph only looked away.
Did I do this? Did I hurt you?
He teared up again.
Kakuin,
Jotaro cut in.
don't worry about it. It didn't work. We just need to find another way to...
What happened?
He jumped to his feet, fists clenched.
Kakuin.
Tell me!
Jotaro didn't say anything. He only stared at Kakuin. Mr. Joestar was also silent.
Ah!
Kakuin yelled and kicked a piece of rubble in frustration. It split in half.
We were able to get you some donor blood from the ambulance.
Mr. Joestar finally said.
I, had to be creative with how to get it to you quickly.
I told you, didn't I? I warned you I was dangerous. I said it would be better for everyone if I was dead, but you!
He fixed his eyes on Jotaro, pointing at him.
You're so damn sentimental! You just couldn't let me go!
Jotaro stomped over to him and punched Kakyoin in the face.
Ah!
Kakyoin cried out and stepped back. Everything in him wanted to retaliate, but he was wary of his own strength. He knew he could kill Jotaro by mistake if he wasn't careful, so he only clenched his fist, letting his body heal his swollen cheek.
Jotaro!
Mr. Joestar yelled, but Jotaro kept going.
You shut your mouth. You don't have the right to just throw your life away like this. Not when we're risking everything to help you.
Why not?
Because...
Jotaro trailed off. His eyes showed a brief flash of pain. He looked down at the floor. Kakyoin was about to fire back with another sharp retort when Jotaro continued quietly, in a voice barely above a murmur.
It's the same reason I saved you from the flesh bud. Even after you had tried to kill me.
Kakyoin felt his words dry up in him. He didn't have a reply for that.
Besides, just imagine how ticked Polnareff would be if he found out you were alive and then died before he could see you again.
Despite the gravity of the situation, Kakyoin found himself smiling, and then gave a small chuckle at that statement.
Yeah. You're right. He'd be pretty ticked.
It didn't work, but there has to be another way. We can find something else that could help cure you. We just need you to keep trying.
What else can we do?
Joseph thought for a moment.
Well, I was thinking, maybe if we had the Speedwagon Foundation take you into custody, they could study you and look for a cure. They are a medical research foundation, after all.
Kakyoin considered the prospect. It did seem promising.
Where would they take me?
Most likely to their research foundation headquarters in Dallas, Texas.
Texas? You mean in America?
Yep, you'd finally get to see my home country.
America. He'd never been. Somehow, even after his 50-day trip around the world, the thought of going to a new country excited him. Yet the reason for the trip made him apprehensive.
How long would I be there?
I'm not sure. It depends on how long it would take them to research and engineer a cure for you. It could be a few months or even years. This will all be new research for them.
Years.
It was strange that he should consider time a precious resource now that he was immortal. But he had to remember that his parents and friends were on a ticking clock now.
If they all died before I could be cured, what would be the point? I'll do it.
Kakyoin said immediately.
Are you sure? Like I said, it's a complete unknown. It could take years, maybe even decades.
Kakyoin swallowed.
It doesn't matter. If there's even a chance, I have to take it. I have to do whatever it takes to become human again. No matter what.
Kakyoin saw a flicker of concern cross Jotaro's face at that remark, but it passed quickly, so Kakyoin thought he had imagined it.
All right then. I'll go speak with the commander. I'll probably have to make some calls as well.
Mr. Joestar turned away from them. He strode off towards a cluster of soldiers standing near the exit and started talking to them. Kakyoin turned his gaze back to Jotaro.
What do you think of all this?
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure.
Jotaro leaned against the ambulance nonchalantly, like this was a totally normal situation.
I mean, only a couple of hours ago I thought you were still dead. I thought I was hunting down some crazy vampire follower of Dio who had desecrated your grave and exhumed your corpse.
Kakyoin chuckled at the morbid description despite himself.
Is that what you thought you were doing here? You didn't realize it was me you were hunting down?
No. We used Hermit Purple to get a picture of his warehouse. That's how I knew you'd come here. But when we tried to get a picture of you, it was just dark and your face was away from the camera. We set a trap without knowing who it was really for. I was prepared to have to kill someone today.
Jotaro's words created a thick tension in the air, and both of them froze. Kakyoin knew they were thinking the same thing at that moment.
He would have had to if Mr. Joestar hadn't crashed in right at that moment.
I mean, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Kakyoin said, not sure how to reply.
Same here.
The two of them stood in awkward silence for a moment. Kakyoin tried to think of something else to talk about.
How's your mother? Did she recover from the curse after we killed Dio?
Oh, yeah.
Jotaro responded tersely.
She's fine. We got home no problem, and she was already up and at it. Said she felt much better.
That's a relief. I guess her stand withdrew from her. I'm glad she's safe.
Yeah.
Jotaro sighed as well. He didn't say anything else, only stared up at the ceiling. Kakyoin felt a twinge of frustration within him. Why was Jotaro acting like this? He'd been so fired up before about helping his friends. Why was he being so aloof now?
Well, you did just try to kill him. Oh, right. He's probably just on edge. Are you angry? About what I did?
No. It's not your fault. You said you're still learning to control it, right?
Yeah.
They stood around some more. Kakyoin started to kick rubble pieces in a circle to pass the time. He hoped Mr. Joestar would get here soon.
Have you ever been to America?
No.
Will you come visit me there? I don't know how long I'll be at the Speedwagon Foundation. I'd like to see you, Mr. Joestar, and Polnareff as much as I can.
Of course. I'll visit often.
Kakyoin felt reassured at that statement. He opened his mouth to say something else when he saw Mr. Joestar head back over.
The commander has to make some calls, but it should be all right for them to take you into custody. They're making arrangements to pick you up as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Joestar. Truly, thank you.
Kakyoin gave a short bow.
It's nothing. You're a lifelong friend of the Joestars. We'd do anything for you.
Mr. Joestar said, giving a small grin. Kakyoin turned to see Jotaro's reaction. He was still standing there, his eyes covered by the brim of his hat. Kakyoin couldn't tell what he was feeling. But then Jotaro looked up at him, his expression unreadable.
Good luck, Kakyoin. Sounds like you've got a long journey ahead of you.
Kakyoin felt the smile break out over his face. He walked over to Jotaro and bumped his friend's shoulder with his fist.
Nothing's impossible, right?
He said playfully. Jotaro said nothing for a moment. Kakyoin expected him to smile back, but instead he just looked down. He grunted and said,
That's right. Not for us.
Joseph came up from behind and clapped Kakyoin on the shoulder.
We'll be behind you every step of the way. If you need anything, give us a call.
Mr. Joestar's remark echoed around the warehouse.